again, let's write together. We're going to look at the story map we made the other day. Remember, this organizer helped us to brainstorm our ideas. Now we'll take the ideas that are brainstormed and we'll put those ideas into sentences to write a story over here. Remember, I'm writing a story that's important to me. You're going to think of a story that's important to you. And what really matters is that for this story that we're writing, it has to be something connected to the daytime or the nighttime sky. As I'm getting ready to think about my story, I need to think about an opening sentence. The sentence that starts our story is called the lead sentence. Can you say lead sentence? Yeah. The lead is what starts out the story and hooks the reader. It gets them excited to want to read it. So I need to look at my story map and think about the important parts that I need to make sure I mention to hook in my reader when they read my story, the opening line of it. So we talked about writing a lead sentence to hook in the reader. I have a few examples to share with you today. This one is from Over and Under the Pond by Kate Messner, and we thank Chronicle Books for letting us use this. This lead sentence says, "Over the pond we slide, splashing through lily pads, sweeping through reeds." Right away, I know they're at a pond, so I know the setting. There's a weed, so there's a couple of characters that are going to be in this story, and it must be kind of nice because they're out. In the picture, we can tell they're out on a boat. But if they're out by the pond, it must be kind of nice if they're splashing around. So I have a sense, and it hooks me in to find out, what are they going to do when they're out on that pond? In this book, Who Will Plant a Tree by Jerry Pallotta, and thank you to Sleeping Bear Press for giving us permission to use this book. Jerry Pallotta's opening sentence, his lead sentence says, "I wonder, who will plant a tree?" Right away, we can tell that the author's asking us a question, and the what is about planting a tree. So the setting, I would think, is going to be someplace that's out and about in nature. So in those first two lead sentences, I'm curious to find out who will plant a tree, and I'm curious to find out what they're going to do out on that pond. This third book, A Bad Case of Stripes by David Shannon, and thank you to Scholastic for letting us read this. The lead sentence says, "Camilla Cream loved lima beans, but she never ate them." Whoa, I'm wondering why. Are you? We know the character, Camilla, and in the picture it shows us the setting. We don't really know much more, but we know the what. It's going to be something about who, which is Camilla, and the what, something about lima beans. So in each of these lead sentences that we read, they hook in the reader to want to find out more. And we find out a little bit of the what. We find out about characters, and in 2 of 3 of them, we know about the setting. That's going to help me to write my story by using other author stories as mentor texts. I'm looking at the characters, and I'm looking at the setting, and I want readers to know who is with me at the beginning. I want them to know where I am, and actually that it's a nice day out. But I also want to have a little bit of a hint that something out of the ordinary is going to happen. So I need to think about how to get those ideas all together. That these people, my family, Matt and Logan, Amelia, myself, we're all at the beach. We're at Otsego Lake State Park, and it's summertime. It's a nice day. We're there to cool off and play, but a nasty storm is going to roll in. I don't want to write a huge sentence. I want it to be just long enough to be able to get all those ideas together. My family's with me. It's a summer day. I'm at the park. I'm ready to have a good time. Do you have some ideas about what I could write for that? So I'm thinking something like this. It was a hot summer afternoon at our family's favorite beach in town. If I say that, we know it's the season of summer. We know it's in the afternoon. You know, the characters, the big word describing characters is family. I think that maybe that could work. What do you think? Let's read the sentence together. It was a hot summer afternoon at our family's favorite beach in town. I'm looking at that. I know that it's summer. Again, I know it's the afternoon. My family is included in that. And I also know the where is going to be at the beach. That hopefully makes you excited to hear my story and wonder, I wonder what will happen on this hot summer afternoon at the local beach. So you start thinking now, what could your lead sentence be? If you've got your organizer, what characters do you want to make sure are in your lead sentence? Do you have a setting? Think for a moment, and what might you write for your lead sentence? Telling us where you are and who is there, and any other important detail with the daytime and nighttime sky. If you've thought about your sentence, say it out loud. Ready? Go. Great. Now, if you think you like your lead sentence, go ahead, grab some paper to start to jot your idea down. Remember, we're doing a draft, so you can always fix your story later. It does not need to be perfect. Just do your best job that you can. Say your idea out loud. Write it down on your paper, going from left to right, just like I did, leaving spaces between your words that you're writing. Take a moment and write down your lead sentence. So now you have a lead sentence and I have a lead sentence. And now we're going to go back to the story map because now I need to think about what I'm going to put next to my story. I'm going to look right here. Remember we talked about the plot, that's the action of our story. And I'm going to go right here where it says first. And on that, I have a few things that I put down. That it's a hot summer day, which guess what? I already put that in my story, right? It says going for a swim, lugging pails, buckets, and a towel bag, and setting up. I think those are the things that I'm going to have to write about next. What I want to do is think about how did that feel? It's a hot summer day, I have to gather up all my things. How am I feeling at that time? Because I want to be able to think about that as I'm writing my story. It'll make my story more interesting for readers like you to read later. So I think for my next sentence, I want to say something like, we grabbed all our things and headed to the beach. Let me mark that up. We grabbed all our things and headed to the beach. That's the next sentence that I'm going to write in my story. So I wrote down some of my ideas. I'm going to start from the beginning and read everything I have. It was a hot summer afternoon at our family's favorite beach in town. We grabbed all our things and headed to the beach. It was hard to lug it all. I remembered it over here when I was brainstorming, I put the word lugged, and I thought that's a really good word to describe it. I remember feeling like it was like hot and I was getting tired, so I put, it was hard to lug it all. We looked for a spot on the crowded beach. Again, I was thinking about how I felt. It was a little bit overwhelming because there were so many people. We needed to find an empty spot. So I made sure to add that in to the story. The next part I want to write about is getting ready to go in the water. And I want to make sure that we talk about finding our goggles. These are things I have over here, and putting on sunscreen before we head to the water. I'm going to start a whole new page for that and leave room down here so I can do an illustration later that matches the words that I wrote. You're going to want to think about that too. Will you want to leave room for an illustration? If you want to draw pictures or cut pictures out and paste them on your story, whatever you might want to do, be planning for that, writers, okay? So let's start a brand new page and write the next part for the beginning of my story. Okay, so now it's time for those goggles and that sunscreen and getting ready for that. That's what I'm going to write next. It was time for sunscreen. That's a compound word, so when I write it, I'm going to make sure I can fit it all in the same line. It was time for sunscreen, finding goggles, and heading to the cold water. That's what I'm going to write next. I'm going to remember to start with an uppercase letter at the beginning of my sentence. And the first word I'm going to write is it. It was, putting a finger space, time, finger space, to find goggles, goals. It was time to find goggles, put on. This next word is sunscreen. Sunscreen. Can you say the word sunscreen? Let's do the sounds. S, a, n, s, k, r, e, n. Sunscreen. S, a, n, s, a, n spells sun. Now I want to do the part screen. You just worked on the sk blend sounds earlier with Miss Rogers. It can be a SK for sk or an SC for sk. In this one, it's SC. Sun, sk. Sun, sk. Yeah, there are. Sunscreen. E. What letter? Yeah, letter E. But to make that E sound, it needs another E with it. Sunscreen. It was time to find goggles, put on sunscreen. I'm going to put another comma because I'm pausing. And the last part is, and head to the cold water. And head, not meaning this head, but means you're going to go there. And head, I'll say head down. Head down, meaning going down the beach. And head down to the, I'm adding in a describing word, an adjective, cold. We're heading to the cold water. Like we know we actually want to be there to cool off that day, right? So it's good to describe that water as cold. And it's the end of a sentence telling you something. So what should I put there? A period, that's right. Let's read it one more time together, everybody. It was time to find goggles, put on sunscreen, and head down to the cold water. Thank you for helping me write that sentence. I've been working from my story map today to write the beginning of my story, and that's what you're going to do with your story. Use your story map that has your characters and your setting, has your plot with everything that happens in order, first, then, next, and then, and finally. We're at this part here, first, and then. I have a little bit more I'm going to add before the next time I come back and see you about these ideas, about us laughing and playing in the water as we started to wade out. So we move our way out into the water a little bit deeper and then do some diving and playing some games. I'll work on that before we meet up again next time.
This program is made possible in part by the Michigan Department of Education, the State of Michigan, and the W.K. Kellogg Foundation. Additional support by, and by viewers like you. Thank you.